Thank you, and it is a pleasure to talk to you all. My intention is kind of where we are in the whole world and where we are in this region, and to see where we can go. So let's start the journey. So I know this is preaching to a choir. You know everything about waste, but just in case, waste we call trash, and we always think there's no value. We consume and we discard. And this was not the case 2,000 years ago, or maybe 10,000 years ago. We had a very sustainable system. Whatever we consume, regenerated. And unfortunately, we are going away and away, drifting, and that is causing a lot of problems. So the waste, predominantly, especially in developing countries, is food waste or organic waste. And also we have some other inorganic waste, which can be of residential, commercial, institutional, or industrial waste, which also may have hazardous material. And also we can have other items like newspapers, clothing, food scraps, boxes, etc., which sometimes end up in landfills. And now this is, if you break down the waste in the Western world. And of course you will see quite a large component of paper and a fairly small component of food. But unfortunately, in this part of the world, this portion is quite large. It comes to about 50 to 60%. It also creates a very unique challenge because most of the time developing countries try to mimic what is happening in the developed world. And this is the place where most of the developing countries go wrong. I'll elaborate that as we go. Because we have a fairly substantial amount of food waste in the waste stream. So, 50, 60 years ago, the developed countries were just like what we do in this part of the world. What do? We just dump it wherever there is a low-lying area. Why do we do that? So we can fill it up and can build. Very simple. Sorry. It served two purposes. One was we could dispose all our trash, and the second purpose was once the trash is filled, we could build on it. Then somebody, this is some snapshots of different parts where the waste is dumped, and sometimes there are people waiting for the waste haulers to bring the waste so that they can recover. These are from cross sections of different parts of the world. I really don't want to name names, and unfortunately the copy you have has names, and I removed it. Probably this is the version should be posted on the internet. So what is waste management? We really cannot just go and throw it out of the windows. That's what we used to do even in US 60, 70 years ago, and then we found we have a problem. It is very unpleasant. It causes diseases and other things. It's a very important thing, waste management, for economic, health, social, and welfare of our life and also the whole globe. So if we don't do a proper job or don't manage it properly, it causes detrimental effect on the society. It can cause disruption in economic development, can cause spread in disease and discomfort. So if you have a well-developed plan, it's a very positive thing. So what do we have? We usually have whatever we consume, we put it in a garbage container, and it depends on the location. It comes every week, every day, and it gets collected. And this component may or may not be there in every location. There might be some recycling and some treatment and final transportation and final disposal. Disposal can be two ways we can dispose. We dispose it in a landfill or waste dump, or we burn it, and it's called incinerator, but we don't use it nowadays. It's called an energy recovery facility, more fancy word. So some pictures of waste storage. We, depending on, it can be very comprehensive. I believe this is from Germany. It has many different containers for different things. And in US, in a way, we are very lazy. So we like to throw everything if possible. So it's not a truly a scientific thing. It's a more social thing, the behavioral thing. So whatever the solution we propose has to have the social context. And then we have collection. Sometimes we simply toss it into the collection van. Sometimes we have fully automated thing. We can pick it up by the waste collection car or the truck. And there can be some sorting, and sorting is very desirable because all kinds of things end up, and if we can sort out, that is very beneficial. And sometimes you have material recovery, where people try to remove certain unwanted things in the waste stream. And you have a treatment transfer facility, and finally we transfer it in very large scale trucks. This is mostly in developed countries, and it ends up in landfill, just like everywhere. And there is also another choice where we call it energy generation, and we tend to burn, and thereby we recover energy. Now there are pluses and minuses for everything. There is no perfect system. In Chinese we call yin and yang, which I did not realize when I was here. The life is all positive and negative. The positive is needed for negative things, and the negative things are needed for the positive development. So this is a picture of incineration plant, and many people are quite negative about incinerators, but if it is properly designed and operated, it can be a very good technology. So we, most of the countries represented in this workshop usually do the open dumping. We just go and dump wherever we can find low-lying areas. Mostly it's also wetlands. And they always create many problems. The first one is the leachate, which is we call garbage juice, smelly, and it has a lot of organic material. And the garbage juice coming from developing nations is quite large because there is a considerable amount of food waste. And it also carries bacteria and some other contaminants. And these contaminants can go into the water supply, and you may be drinking some of them intentionally unintentionally. Then we also have methane generation. It's a greenhouse gas which causes global warming, and also it can have fire hazards. So in addition to that, we have smell, insects, mice. Is unsightly. Nobody wants to live close to a waste facility. And finally, the fire hazards. So this is a picture of what you would see, the leachate. Another one, which is like a flowing. Now, this is quite common, the leachate. So where are we now in the Western nations? We found that these open dumps are not the best way to handle because of all the problems we have, I mentioned. So we came up with a very innovative way, is to put something underneath and put something on top. And basically what we do is we kind of create a tomb. Just like if you see in Egypt or in China, you have when the old kings, the kings die, they are tombed and preserved. So we're doing the same thing in the Western countries for our waste. We preserve it for our children. Let me give you what we do. So we have this leachate which is coming down from the waste, which cannot be fermented. It's the natural decay. And so what we do is we put a thing called liner. And that will stop all the leachate. And then what we do is we put a cover. Why do we put a cover? Because if you don't put a cover, whenever it rains, you have additional water gets collected, and then you have a very large pool. And we don't want to have a large pool of the garbage juice, so we put a cover. So we isolate the waste completely. And that is how we construct the landfill. So this gives you a detail of stages. We have the bottom liner, and we bringing the waste in trucks, and we have a daily cover, because every day once you finish filling, you don't want to have any visitors, unwanted visitors to site, so we cover it, and also remove the smell. And when you reach a certain level, we have a daily cover, intermediate cover, and then finally you have the final cover, and that is the landfill. If you look at the bottom liner, it has several components, and probably you would have all of you have heard of this very extensively, so I'm not going to that. It's a complete, quite a comprehensive design which has several layers, and similarly, you have the final cover also has several layers, and it has to be properly designed. Now, this all is quite expensive, and it's also needed. Now, when you have a cover, there are some other unintentional issues. The gas which comes out gets trapped, and sometimes end up something like that. And also, we can cause fire hazards. And therefore, we have the system designed, which is called a gas venting system, where we vent out or let the gas escape into the atmosphere. Sometimes we burn it, we flare it, and sometimes we can recover the energy. But most of the time, we cannot recover much with this kind of landfill, because the amount of gas collected is quite low for economic recovery. So we found there are several problems. One was the leachate. The leachate which comes out has to be removed, and otherwise it gets collected, and it causes lots of problems. So whatever is collected, we have to dispose it properly, and that causes a lot of issues because it is costly. So one smart person thought, well, what happens if you put the leachate back into the landfill? So this is how we collect it, and we put it back. Now, if you do that, what would happen? Now, whenever we have moisture in the landfill, it's very conducive to microbes to accelerate the biodegradation. And it started emitting methane very rapidly. And therefore, we can very rapid, the rapid decay of the waste cause methane, and which can be collected. And now, the rate of collection is much faster. So we can use energy recovery system to burn this methane and recover energy. So this is the next generation of landfills, which is called a bioreactor landfill. So let me ask you this question from the audience. I know you guys are the experts. Is this a good technology for developing countries? This is the state of the art right now in US and most of the developed nations. What do you think? Is that a good one? Yes? How many say yes? Oh, just only one. Okay. How many say no? 3 or 4. What about the others? I have the same problem when I ask question from my students. I was fortunate enough back in I think around 2000, no, it should be 2004. This technology was implemented in Egypt and funded by the US government. Guess what? They had a major problem. What is the problem? The leachate coming out is so much they cannot put it back. If you put it back, it becomes a ponding. So it became a failure, the bioreactor technology in Egypt. The lesson we learn is that always what the West is doing, we should not be copying. We should develop, each country should develop their own appropriate technology. And you should be proud of that. And copying also is for the weak people who don't have the creativity. So anyhow, so this is what we have, and we also have the gas extraction. So I am going to very rapidly tell you a little bit about this and why we do that. It generates more moisture, and Dr. Hetirachi, I was very fortunate to have him as my doctoral student some way back, and he addressed one of the key problems issues with the bioreactor landfill, because when you add moisture, it decays waste very rapidly, and that causes the whole landfill to settle very fast. And when it settles very fast, there are some infrastructure, such as pipes, which also creates a lot of issues, and we cannot send the leachate back into the landfill because of the rapid settlement, and also the gas collection. All the pipes fail, and we wanted to quantify the amount of settlement, and Dr. Hetirachi did that work with me. And so let's deviate a little bit from the waste. So this is kind of the state of the art of what we have in the Western world. So it's very logical. We went from waste dump to something where we try to prevent the problems, and then we find that there's leachate coming out, we put it back. So what we are trying to do is like fixing the problem. So every time we identify a problem, we find a solution. But there's a better way of doing it, is in a more holistic way, which comes to the sustainability. So the UN defined what? The ability to provide for the needs of the world's current population without damaging the ability of the future generation. So we can apply some of the concepts to the waste too. And also, one of the interesting part is, which also mentioned by Dr. Hettiaraj, that waste has value. We don't think of it as a value. So right now in the Western world, sometimes we go back to the landfills and dig and remove things. And people become rich. Why? We have copper pipes which we throw away those days. Copper is quite expensive now. And some of the other metals. So what? We can recycle, right? Everybody knows that. I don't have to preach again. This part of the world recycle quite a lot. So let's think of it this somebody is throwing because they don't want it, but that may be value to somebody else. It may not be today, it may be some time in the future. So can we recover the cash in the trash? And the cash, is it right away or after several years? And can this concept be applied to develop as well as developing nations? So this is what I want to do, and then I want to lead into the next presentation by Dr. Yuan. So I was also fortunate to witness something remarkable. This happened in Egypt, so I'll tell you the story. It's called Siblings. It's a group of people doing an amazing job. They collect the waste, either in carts or hand carry. They sort it, and they recover pretty much everything. They sort out the paper, and with that, they make all kinds of products. In fact, I bought some of them. These are for sale. They also recover plastics and makes very interesting products. They also recover textile and make new clothing. People wear when you wash it, and the food waste. So pretty much they recover everything. Isn't that a good practice? Can we do that? This is truly a sustainable waste management, because whatever we discard, we recover. Now there's a drawback. Every time that you have the yin and the yang, good and the bad. It's really good, but the bad part is the health and the hygiene. People get sick, and their immunity is lost. Can we adopt this kind of things for developed and developing worlds? So I was kind of very fortunate to get involved in a next generation of waste management, which we call the truly sustainable landfill, or the sustainable landfill for the developing countries. I'll give you a very brief example of what is that and how we do that, and then I will stop. So what do? We do the same thing, what we do here. We have the anaerobic bioreactor, where we collect the leachate, put the leachate back into the system, which causes very rapid degradation of the waste, and we extract the methane. And when we extract the methane, we use that to burn and convert into energy. So then when we find that the waste conversion is slowing down, and we don't get enough methane, the time is also has a value. So then what we do is, instead of collecting methane, use the same system to pump air. When we do that, it instantaneously transforms the anaerobic, which is without oxygen, to an aerobic system. And the aerobic degradation is much rapid than the anaerobic, and all the waste get decomposed. Once the waste gets decomposed, what we do is we go back and take out everything, and we sort out. So what happened? Look at the products we have. We have food. After all this is done, what happens? It becomes compost. And the compost can be used as a fertilizer. What happened to the paper? Some of the paper gets decomposed too and become compost. What happened to the glass? Nothing happens. Glass remains there. We can recover it. What happened to the metal? It is there and we can recover it. What happened to plastic? We can recover. So we can recover pretty much everything, and we can utilize. So that's why we call this a sustainable landfill. So I was fortunate to involve in a project, and this sustainable landfill was built in Calgary, Canada. And these are the stages. We have the regular anaerobic reactor, which takes about 4 to 10 years. And we are right now somewhere around 9th year of operation. And when that is over, we're going to have an aerobic where we recover the methane. We stop that extraction and we pump oxygen. That will take about another 1 or 2 years, and then we recycle, we mine, recycle, recover, and then put the life back as a new landfill. So we are recycling the landfill. So this is what is happening, and it is a pilot project, 1 hectare area, 50,000 tons, and these are the partners, City of Calgary, University of Calgary, who headed the project. My good friend Patrick Etiarachi is also expatriate from Sri Lanka, NJIT, and several consultants. And there are some other components which involve quite state-of-the-art. So that's where we are heading, and this probably will be the accepted technology for the West. So that is developed for developed nations. Can we just copy it? So Dr. Yuan, after the tea break, is going to talk whether it's possible. If not, what we should do. What's the next best thing we should do for this part of the world? And then we wanted to get everybody energized into something Dr. Yuan developed in Australia. And we try to implement, we came in last November, and we want to implement it, and now we wanted to open up to the whole region and see whether we can develop. So that's where we are, and if you have any questions, this is the time to ask, and if not, we should have tea, right? Okay, so we calculate the methane recovery. It all depends on the degradation rate and the amount of organic content, and we try to recover pretty much 90% of the methane. And then we find that it's not really economical to continue because the time is, after that it's so slow that it's not worthwhile, and then that's the point we stop and we inject oxygen. And the reason why we do that is by completely degrading the waste, we eliminate the pathogens and the health issue. Otherwise, it's not recommended to go and mine the waste. Any other? Nope. Okay, so we can have a break.